Have you ever found yourself at a place in your life where you needed to start over, but you didn't know where to begin? A place where you were so worried about making the same mistakes that you made in the past or facing the same challenges that you felt absolutely frozen? Well, I have something to share with you today, my friends, is despite where you find yourself today, you are not your past. And even though challenges may have occurred in the past, you don't need to repeat them. When you focus on where you want to go and be committed to be open and positive in your approach, you can overcome any challenge. Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Natzke with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week. Today, I want to talk about what I call are the 3 abilities to breaking through. You know, as a professional speaker, I often get a chance to speak with a wide array of audiences, all the way from elementary school children to corporate leaders. And one of my favorite audiences are high schoolers. I just love being able to be in their presence and seeing their enthusiasm and their zest for life and all the potential that they have in front of them. And several years ago, I was invited to give a commencement speech to a unique group of young men here in the Denver area. This was actually the graduating class of a high school that was in one of the highest security places here in Colorado. So this was an institution where these young men had made some poor choices in their life, and now they're sentenced to do their time, but they were getting their high school educations. And many of them were actually going to be graduating that day from high school, but they still had to stay in to finish their sentences. So it was a unique group of young men that I was speaking to. And as I was talking with them beforehand, before I gave my speech, as well as talking with many of the administrators, one of the things that kept coming present was the fact that one of their biggest challenges, one of their biggest fears was reintegrating back into their home life and into their communities once they were released from this program. So they had made some, again, bad choices in the past, and now they were really concerned, these are my words, not theirs, but bringing their past back into their future. And the message that I shared with them is what I want to share with you today is what I call the 3 abilities of breaking through, of being able to break through those habits that we've had in the past that have gotten the results that we want. And if we want different results, we've got to show up differently. And these are the 3 abilities. Now, each and every one of us has these abilities, I believe, but it's our choice of whether or not we want to lean into them and really utilize them in our lives. So here we go. So the first one is adaptability. Adaptability. Now, many might think that when you're in a challenging situation, or maybe even if you're with people that aren't the best influence of you, adaptability means being able to adapt with them, or maybe even adapt to their way of being. And many times that's when people get themselves back into trouble. They get back into old habits, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, I think it's Jim Rohn who says we are an average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. But the adaptability I'm talking about is being able to adapt to the environments we're in by being true to who we are, by being very, very resolute in wanting to show up in a strong way of being, committed to what we want to create in our lives. And even though the situations around us might tempt us to move back into bad and old habits, we're going to adapt in such a way that we're going to be still in our center, still in our strength, still in our power, and be committed to moving through life the way we want to. So as you find yourself in situations that may not be the best, how are you choosing to adapt to those situations? And are you leaning into a strong and resolute way of being in those situations? Number 2 is responsibility. Now, many times you hear the word responsibility, and it talks about basically a moral way of being, making sure that we're adhering to certain legal ways. We're basically being accountable for actions, and that is a great way of being responsible. And I absolutely think it's absolutely necessary. But here's another way to look at that word. Rather than spell it as responsibility, spell it as responsibility. The ability to respond. So when we're in tough situations, when we're in situations that maybe have come present in the past and we realize that it's not going to serve us, how are we able to respond versus react? Because many times that reaction comes based off of habit, but pure response and the best way of dealing with it is to step back and be conscious about what's going on before we take those next steps. See, we may not be able to impact what's going on around us at any certain time. We may not be able to change the circumstances, but the one thing we're always able to do is dictate how we respond to those situations. Are we going to be peaceful? Are we going to be calm? Are we going to be standing strong in our values? So how are you responding to the situations that bring you the greatest challenge? And finally, number 3 is possibility. Are you living in possibility? You know, when we take a look at our greatest leaders of our generation, the Mandelas of the world, the Martin Luther Kings, the Mother Teresas, all of them had tremendous impact on breaking through the social norms of the time. You know, Martin Luther King talked about having civil rights here in America, and Mandela helped us deal with apartheid, and Mother Teresa was all for peace and service. But the fact of the matter is all 3 of those individuals throughout history, they weren't focused on what they were against. They were focused on what they were for and what the possibilities were for a brighter future. And that was the message that they gave to those that followed them. So how are you looking at your current situation and where you're at and what is the possibility? And again, focusing not on what you're against, but clearly what you're for. So those are my 3 abilities for breakthrough, my friends: adaptability, responsibility, and possibility. And I'm encouraging each and every one of you, as you're going through the week this week, is lean into those abilities. Where do you have a point that you can actually show up strong in one of those to not only lead yourself, but to lead others to breakthrough? And if you want a little bit more information on this, go ahead and check out the link below for one of my free offers, which is a free introductory chapter of my latest book called Breaking Through, Amazon #1 bestseller. So you get the introductory chapter by clicking the link below, and you can see how these 3 abilities can be used in your life. So thanks so much for joining me again this week. I always appreciate your likes, your comments, and your shares. And this has been Chris Natzke with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching. And we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.